They drilled 1,500 feet into the earth, Ryan, and what came back up had no scientific explanation.
Skinwalker Ranch drilled 1,500 feet down. What they found is disturbing. They drilled 1,500 feet into the earth, and what came back up had no scientific explanation. Skinwalker Ranch in northeastern Utah has been called the most scientifically studied paranormal location on Earth. For decades, researchers have documented UFO sightings, cattle mutilations, poltergeist activity, and phenomena that defy every known law of physics. But nobody, not the government, not the scientists, not the television crews, was prepared for what happened when they decided to drill straight down into the ground beneath the property. What they discovered wasn't just strange, it was structurally impossible, and the deeper they went, the more disturbing the picture became. Tonight, we're going underground. We're going to look at exactly what the drilling operations at Skinwalker Ranch revealed, what the data actually shows, and why some of the scientists involved have quietly admitted this changes everything they thought they knew. Stay with me, because this goes very, very deep. To understand why the drilling matters, you need to understand what Skinwalker Ranch actually is. The property sits on approximately 512 acres in the Uinta Basin in Utah, a region with a documented history of strange phenomena stretching back centuries. The Ute Nation considered this land forbidden. They called it the Path of the Skinwalker, a territory inhabited by malevolent shape-shifting entities. They didn't camp there. They didn't hunt there. They stayed away entirely. In the 1990s, billionaire aerospace entrepreneur Robert Bigelow purchased the ranch specifically to study its anomalies. He installed a team of scientists and former intelligence operatives and began systematic observation. What they documented over the following years was staggering: orbs of light that evaded capture, cattle found mutilated with surgical precision, portals described by multiple credible witnesses appearing in broad daylight. In 2016, the property was sold to Adamantium Real Estate, a shell company connected to Brandon Fugel, a prominent Utah businessman. Fugel opened the ranch to a team of investigators, scientists, and ultimately to cameras. The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch began airing on the History Channel in 2020, and it was under that scientific scrutiny, real instruments, real geologists, real drilling equipment, that the underground story began. The decision to drill wasn't arbitrary. It came in response to something the team kept noticing: the most intense paranormal activity on the property. The UAP sightings, the electromagnetic surges, the anomalous radiation readings kept clustering around specific locations, and those locations appeared to be connected to what was happening beneath the surface. Ground-penetrating radar surveys had already revealed something unsettling. Beneath certain areas of the ranch, the radar was returning unusual signals: voids, cavities, and structures that didn't match the natural geological profile of the region. Utah's Uinta Basin sits on well-documented geology: sandstone, shale, sedimentary layering going back millions of years. The readings they were getting didn't match any of that. When the team began drilling, eventually reaching depths approaching 1,500 feet, the anomalies didn't disappear. They intensified. At various depths, drilling equipment encountered resistance that geologists on site couldn't account for. Not rock resistance, something different. Something that produced readings on instruments that the lead scientist, Dr. Travis Taylor, a NASA physicist with a doctorate in optical science, described on camera as genuinely puzzling. Then came the gas. At significant depth, the drill released a pocket of gas. That, by itself, is not unusual. What was unusual was the composition. The gas contained compounds and isotopic signatures that didn't align with natural subsurface gas pockets in the region. The team's analysis suggested the gas had characteristics more consistent with what you might find in much older geological formations, far older than the surrounding rock should allow. Where had it come from? How had it gotten there? Nobody had an answer. If you're finding this as unsettling as I am, hit that like button and subscribe, because what comes next is where this story takes a turn most people never hear about. Let's talk about what the instruments actually recorded during the drilling operations, because the data matters here. During drilling activity, the team's monitoring equipment detected spikes in electromagnetic radiation at the surface directly above the drill site. Correlation between underground activity and above-ground electromagnetic anomalies is not something that geology typically produces. The ranch also has a documented history of what researchers call a mesa, a large elevated geological feature on the property. UAPs have been repeatedly observed entering and exiting the area around and apparently beneath this mesa. Thermal imaging and radar have repeatedly suggested the mesa may be hollow or contain interior spaces in ways that conventional geology doesn't support. Multiple geologists brought in independently have reviewed the survey data. Their conclusions, while carefully worded, agree on one point. The subsurface profile of Skinwalker Ranch does not match what the surrounding Uinta Basin geology would predict. Something is different about what lies beneath this specific parcel of land. Former military intelligence officer and ranch investigator Eric Bard, who has spent years methodically cataloguing the ranch's anomalies, has stated publicly that the underground data represents some of the most compelling evidence they have. Not because it proves anything paranormal, but because it eliminates conventional explanations one by one. So what is actually down there? 3 theories have emerged from the researchers involved, each more unsettling than the last. The first theory is geological uniqueness. Some scientists argue that the Uinta Basin's subsurface is simply more complex than previously mapped, and that what appears anomalous is actually rare but natural geological formation. Unusual gas pockets, unmapped cavities, localized electromagnetic properties. Strange, but terrestrial. Possible, but this theory struggles to explain why the anomalies cluster so specifically beneath this one ranch. The second theory is ancient artificial construction. This is where things get controversial. Some researchers have quietly suggested that the underground structures, the voids, the unusual resistance signatures may not be natural at all. The idea that something was built beneath this location, potentially thousands of years ago, potentially by something that wasn't human. This aligns with the Ute Nation's ancient warnings about the land and with certain fringe archaeological theories about the Uinta Basin's prehistory. The third theory is the one that investigators seem most reluctant to state plainly, but keep circling back to. That whatever is causing the phenomena at Skinwalker Ranch, the UAPs, the radiation, the cattle mutilations, the portals, is based underground. That the surface events are symptoms, that the source is below, and that by drilling down 1,500 feet, The team may have done something they cannot undo. They may have made contact or announced their presence to something that was already aware of them. Here is the most disturbing part of all of this. Following the deeper drilling operations, witnesses on the ranch reported a measurable increase in activity, more UAP sightings, more equipment malfunctions, more unexplained physical effects on personnel. The scientific team has been careful not to draw a direct causal link publicly, but the timeline exists. The drilling happened, the activity escalated. What was dormant, if it was ever dormant, appears to have been disturbed. And here is what no one on that ranch can fully answer. If something has been down there long enough to create geological impossibilities, long enough for an entire indigenous nation to declare the land forbidden across generations of oral history, what exactly did 1/500 feet of steel drill bit mean to it? Skinwalker Ranch continues to be actively investigated. The drilling data is still being analyzed. The anomalies are still being recorded. And whatever is beneath that Utah soil, geological quirk, ancient structure, or something else entirely, it isn't giving up its answers easily. Thank you for watching. I want to know what you think. If the underground data from Skinwalker Ranch turned out to prove artificial subterranean construction, what would that change for you about how you understand this world? Drop your answer in the comments below. I read every single one. If you found this compelling, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. There's a great deal more where this came from. And the next story is, if anything, stranger than this one.